What's up, guys? If you want to learn how to change your jig trailer to get more bites in the springtime, I'll show you my 4 favorite jig trailers coming up next. What's up, guys? If this is your first time on my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss any of my bass fishing videos. Now let's get into our top 4 jig trailers for spring bass fishing to get you more bites. My number 1 choice for a jig trailer in the spring is going to be a chunk style trailer. This is going to be the first trailer I throw as soon as the ice comes off the water, all the way up into the low 50-degree range. It is designed so it doesn't add much bulk to your bait, as well as it has no action on the claws there. They're just flat claws. Basically just makes your jig look like it has some claws on the end of it, so it's not a bare jig. And it is designed to have no life to it. In the early springtime, that's the key. You don't want to have something that has a lot of movement to it. You want to fish really slow. You want to pitch this in the laydowns and basically drag it over the limbs real slow, counting it over them. And the key is not to have any action on your bait. I also like to throw the chunk in the springtime, especially if it's clear water, but it also works in muddy water too, when it's cold, because I can throw a small jig, a small chunk, and I can get the fish to get the whole bait in its mouth every time. It's very small, compact profile. You don't miss many fish. You can see it's not a bulky jig right there. This is one that has a chunk on it as well. That's my choice in the springtime. So when you do get those bites, you don't miss them either, because in the spring, you're not going to get many bites, especially when the water's that cold. High 40s, low 50s, even colder than that. You can throw this chunk style trailer and you might not get many bites, but not having a bulky jig, having a really lifeless trailer, and just fishing really slow with a small jig, small trailer, really you'll increase your chances of landing your fish and getting more bites. But then once that water gets above 50, 52 range, we're going to go to my next style trailer. My number 2 jig trailer is going to be a beaver. The reason I fish the beaver in the springtime, from about 50 to 55 degree range, you still have no action. You have flat tails, so there's no action on the bait, but it'll add bulk to your jig. So this is low 50s to mid 50s is when those really big fish are going to start pulling up, and you're going to be able to get bigger bites with the bulkier jig, with the big beaver on the back of it. And I will use this to actually get bigger bites. Now I will use this in conjunction with the chunka that we just talked about on 2 different jigs. I'll throw a bigger jig with this beaver on it and a chunk with the smaller jig, and I'll play around with it, see what the fish feel like, if they want the smaller jig or if they want the bigger jig. But where this really comes into play for me is muddy water, when you need a lot of bulk to a jig so the fish can find it. You want something that'll move a little bit more water. Not that this is going to move water action-wise, but it'll move water because your jig will just be larger in general, and it'll put off a bigger profile for those fish to be able to find in muddy water. And I'll use this to get a bigger bite in the springtime as well. So that is why the beaver is going to be my number 2 choice in the springtime, starting around the 50 degree range, going up to about 55. That's when I'll be throwing a beaver. My number 3 jig trailer is going to be something that has claws that are close together and don't push a lot of water. Now, there's many brands out there, many different companies have different kind of baits. This is a Zoom Z-Craw Jr., and this is a Rage Menace Grub from Strike King. Take your pick on what you like. The key to this bait is right here. You can see those claws are close together. They'll move water and they have a little flapping action to them, but they're not making real wide movements. So you can see they kind of hang close together. It's more of like the body is like a beaver, but it has a couple little action tails on the back, make it move a little bit of water. I'll start using this in muddy water down to 53 degrees whenever I need some movement on a bait for them to be able to find it, all the way up to about 57 degree water temperature when these fish really start to get up shallow. They want a bait that's moving a little bit more water. Things start getting active. That's when I'm going to switch over to this type of bait. And you can see it's not a very big bait. That's almost like, that's the shape of a grub but has the tails of a claw. It sticks in line with the small jig compact profile to be able to get bites. Or if you wanted to bump it up to You could get a full-size Z-Craw. Not this is the junior, but you get a full-size Z-Craw, and it'll be the size of a beaver, and it'll have the claws on the back that don't move, just move a little bit of water, but it'll add bulk to your jig. So you can throw maybe the Rage Grub on one rod, and then you can throw a Zoom Z-Craw full size, or a sweet Reaction Innovation Spicy Beaver is another one that they just came out with. You could throw something like that, a bigger one, on a different jig, and you can do the same thing. 1-2 punch of a small jig with a small profile and a big jig with a big profile, mix it up. But the key to this trailer is going to be that slow moving trailer claw. Now, it's not that it's slow moving, it starts to have a little bit more movement to it, but it's slower than what my next choice will be, which is a craw. It's going to have too much water movement for this time of year. When that water's still cold, they don't want to move a whole lot, but they want something that has a little bit more movement to it. That's when I'll start throwing a trailer that has just tight claws that kick together. My number 4 jig trailer choice is a craw style trailer. The reason I picked this to move on for the rest of the year is just because the popularity. I mean, you're fishing a jig to make it look like a craw usually. Sometimes you'll make a fish like a swim jig, you can make it look like a shad or bluegill or anything like that. But most people, when they fish a jig, they're fishing it to look like a craw. And that's the reason why I picked the craw style trailer. It threads on the jig easy, it fits on nice, but it doesn't add a whole lot of bulk. And all your action comes from the tails down on the end. This is going to move a lot of water. If you get muddy water, you can fish it. The fish can find it. They'll have no problem finding your jig. It just adds movement to it. And this time of year, once you get up in that 57-degree water temp and above, those fish are going to get really active. You can use a trailer that has a lot of movement to it. And this is going to get you bigger bites because it has that movement to it. The fish like that vibration. It's something that they can find with their lateral line, even if the water's muddy. And I use it that I'll put it on a flipping jig. You can flip your jig into cover and fish it like a regular jig, or you can flip it out there and swim it in, or swim it around those logs, and you can figure out if they want a swim jig that day maybe, or if they want something moving. And you can keep one bait in your hand. You can flip the jig, you can reel it, you can swim it, you can just make it do a lot of different things with a craw trailer, that it just has many advantages to it to fish it. But the problem is that they won't eat it in that cold water. You got to wait for the water to warm up a little bit. That's when you use those other jigs prior to this, jig trailers. You'll use them first thing in the spring when the ice gets off, if the water's cold. Fish to the speed the fish want to move. In the early spring, they don't want to move a lot. Once they get moving, later water temperatures, higher water temperatures, that's when you're going to want to switch over to this bait. You're going to get more bites, and you're going to get bigger bites. Alright guys, those are my 4 jig trailers I use in the spring. I hope you enjoyed the video on why I picked different jig trailers to get more bites. If you like the tips, leave a like down below, and also comment your favorite jig trailer you use in the spring so I can check yours out as well. Also, click on the little picture in the circle here if you'd like to subscribe so you don't miss any more bass fishing tips coming out from me. See you on the next one.